America didn't become rich by working harder. It became rich because the world was forced to use its money. That system is now cracking. And the countries that supply the world with oil, factories, and food are quietly preparing an exit. If they succeed, inflation won't slowly eat your savings. It will sprint. Welcome to the silent currency war. Before we talk about the collapse, we have to understand how the trap was set. Rewind to 1944. World War II is ending, Europe is rubble, and the U.S. holds 2/3 of the world's gold. So, at a hotel in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, the U.S. makes the world an offer it can't refuse. We will back the dollar with gold, and you back your currencies with the dollar. It was a brilliant deal. The dollar was literally good as gold. It created stability. It built the modern global economy. But politicians have a bad habit. They like spending money they don't have. By the 1960s, with the Vietnam War and massive welfare programs, the U.S. was printing way more paper dollars than it had gold in the vault. Other countries noticed. France even sent a battleship to New York to demand their gold back. The jig was up. So, on August 15, 1971, President Richard Nixon went on TV and temporarily suspended the gold standard. Spoiler alert, it wasn't temporary. Overnight, the dollar became a piece of paper backed by absolutely nothing but trust. By all economic laws, the dollar should have died right there. But the U.S. had an ace up its sleeve, or rather, a diplomat on a plane. In 1974, Henry Kissinger flew to Saudi Arabia with a masterstroke deal that would save the American empire. The terms were simple. The U.S. brief would provide military protection and weapons to the royal house of Saud. In exchange, Saudi Arabia, and eventually all of OPEC, would price oil exclusively in U.S. dollars. This was the birth of the Petrodollar. Think about what this means. Every country needs energy. To buy oil, they need dollars. To get dollars, they have to sell us their stuff, cars, electronics, coffee, or borrow from us. It created a permanent artificial demand for American cash. It allowed the U.S. to export its inflation to the rest of the world. We print the paper. You give us the Ferraris. For 50 years, this system worked perfectly for America and rigged the game for everyone else. But now, for the first time in history, the world's biggest energy buyers and sellers are meeting in the same room, and they are asking a dangerous question. Why do we need the middleman? So, if the petrodollar system was such a perfect cheat code, why is it breaking now? It comes down to one specific date, February 26, 2022. When the conflict in Ukraine escalated, the U.S. and its allies didn't just send tanks, they dropped a financial nuke. In an unprecedented move, the West froze over $300 billion of Russia's central bank reserves held overseas. Now put politics aside for a second and look at this from a banker's perspective in Beijing, Riyadh, or Brasilia. The message was loud and clear. Your dollars are not yours. They are permission slips from the U.S. Treasury. And if we don't like what you do, we can turn your national savings to zero overnight. This was the glitch. The moment the dollar went from being a neutral store of value to a political weapon. And the data proves the panic is real. According to the World Gold Council, in 2022 and 2023, global central banks bought gold at the fastest pace since 1967. Why? Because gold is the only asset you can own that doesn't have a counterparty risk. You can't sanction a gold bar in a vault in Shanghai, but it gets worse. While the U.S. is busy weaponizing the dollar abroad, they are debasing it at home. Let's look at the domestic glitch. The U.S. national debt has exploded past $34 trillion. We are adding $1 trillion of debt roughly every 100 days. The Federal Reserve printed nearly 40% of all U.S. dollars in existence just during the pandemic years. This brings us to the Triffin dilemma. It's an economic paradox that states a country cannot maintain a global reserve currency and a healthy domestic economy forever. To provide the world with dollars, the U.S. must run massive trade deficits. Eventually, the debt becomes so large that trust collapses. We have reached that tipping point. And here is where BRICS enters the chat. They aren't just complaining, they are doing the math. In terms of purchasing power parity, PPP, the BRICS nations have now officially overtaken the G7 countries in global GDP share. They control the majority of the world's resources. Russia and Saudi Arabia have the energy. China has the manufacturing. India has the labor and tech. Brazil has the agriculture. What does the G7 have? Financial services and debt. This imbalance is leading to concrete action. We are seeing de-dollarization happen in real time. Saudi Arabia stated in Davos they are open to trading oil in currencies other than the dollar, a direct violation of the 1974 pact. China and Brazil signed a deal to trade specifically in yuan and riel, bypassing the dollar entirely. Project mBridge, a central bank digital currency platform connecting China, Thailand, Hong Kong, and the UAE to settle trades instantly without ever touching the US banking system, SWIFT. The glitch isn't just a bug in the software, it's a complete system failure. The world is realizing that holding US dollars is like holding stock in a company that is drowning in debt and actively suing its own customers. So what does this dollar killer actually look like? Forget the idea of a BRICS coin that you use to buy milk in Shanghai or Mumbai. They aren't trying to create another euro. That would be a disaster. Instead, economists believe they are building a trade settlement unit. Let's call it the unit. Here is the difference using a casino analogy. Right now, the global economy is a casino where the US is the house. We print the chips, dollars. Everyone else works hard to win those chips, but at any moment, the house can change the value of the chips or kick you out. BRICS is saying, we don't want your chips anymore. We're going to start betting with gold, oil, and wheat. The proposed system is a currency backed by a basket of real commodities. 40% gold, 60% resources. This is the ultimate anti-fiat weapon. While the dollar is backed by full faith and credit, which is just fancy talk for debt, this new unit would be backed by hard assets, stuff you can actually drop on your foot. Now you might be thinking, cool story, but I live in Ohio, not Russia. Why do I care? Here is the nightmare scenario, the Great Reflux. For decades, the US has enjoyed what the French called the exorbitant privilege. We export inflation, we print dollars, send them abroad, and in return the world sends us cheap TVs, cheap clothes, and cheap oil. Trillions of these dollars sit in foreign bank accounts, never touching the US economy. But if BRICS stops using the dollar for trade, they don't need to hold those dollars anymore. They will dump them. Imagine if trillions of dollars suddenly flooded back into the United States because nobody else wanted them. It's basic supply and demand. Supply of dollars skyrockets, value of dollar crashes. This is the WeFM moment. The import prices at Walmart don't just go up, they double. Gas isn't expensive because of a supply chain issue, it's expensive because your money is worthless. The Federal Reserve would be forced to hike interest rates not to 5%, but to 15% or 20% just to save the currency. Your 30-year fixed mortgage? Gone. The value of your 401k? Evaporated in real terms. This is the trap. The American middle-class lifestyle has been subsidized by the world's demand for our currency. If that demand dies, the subsidy ends, and reality hits hard. So, is the US dollar going to zero next Tuesday? No. Stop listening to the doom scrollers on Twitter. The dollar is still the cleanest shirt in a dirty laundry basket. The global banking system is too entangled to unravel overnight. But the era of King Dollar, the era where the US could print money without consequences and dictate terms to the entire planet, is officially on life support. We are watching history rhyme. The Dutch guilder dominated the 17th century. Gone. The British pound ruled the 19th century. Replaced. The US dollar had an 80-year run. The silent war isn't about BRICS destroying America. It's about the world moving from a unipolar system, where one boss makes the rules, to a multipolar system. For the rest of the world, this looks like freedom. For the United States, it looks like a wake-up call. We can no longer rely on the privilege of our currency to fund our lifestyle. We actually have to start making things, balancing budgets, and producing value again. The party is over, the bill is due, and the waiter is speaking Mandarin.